Well, hello again. It's been a while since I did one of these little update videos, but this is basically everything I've been listening to for the past month, if not couple months. At this point in time, I forget when the last time I made one of these was, but this is just my current CD and vinyl collection update video. I'm probably the only person who's going to watch this, so it's totally fine to not remember these specifics because who needs to? All right, so first off, what did I get? I got ASAP Rocky's Don't Be Dumb. I got to hear this on streaming. I really enjoyed it and I waited for it to come out, and I was super stoked when it did. There's been a fun little trend in the past few years of like packaging where people are not putting the track lists on the back of their stuff anymore. I think that's really interesting because it means that if you want to know what the specific songs are, you probably have to look it up online at this point in time. But yeah, no, it's fantastic. So I just like the entire album. Specifically, I want to say like Helicopter Stole Your Flow stood out to me. Punk Rocky stood out to me, and um, I can't remember the other song names at this point in time. But basically, I just enjoyed the entire album, so that's a really good one. And I was really happy with that pickup, and I was really happy to wait for it to come out on CD as well. So that was a good pick. Next up, I got a Chuck Berry Greatest Hits collection. This one's called You Can't Catch Me. These are all the mono recordings, which makes sense because I'm pretty sure it wasn't until the like Beach Boys that people got into sort of stereo recording. So this is basically the original quality that you were going to get. Fantastic album. Chuck Berry, one of the greats. I think Chuck Berry, Johnny Cash, and maybe Little Richard are probably your best solid bets for getting into like classic rock and roll, if that's a thing that you're interested in. If it's not, that's totally fine. You can skip all of those people if you feel like it. But Chuck Berry, the original poet laureate of rock and roll, I guess. Fantastic stuff on here. Obviously, they're all the hits, so you're going to really like it. Like Johnny Be Good is a song you'll probably know if you are at all conscious and have ever listened to music before, or even watched a movie set around that time period. That's really fantastic. I really like Memphis, Tennessee is fantastic. Too Much Monkey Business is great. That I believe also becomes the influence for another song that I'll talk about in a moment. We've also got Maybelline, fantastic. Carol, Don't Let Them Steal Your Heart Away. Great stuff. School Days is one of my favorites, though. Just the idea of like the teacher is teaching the golden rule. Yeah, really interesting stuff. So yeah, Chuck Berry, fantastic. I also was reading the liner notes, and it's kind of funny because he originally got a tryout to go in and record at Chess Records because of a cover of a song that he recorded, or the song that he covered was called Ida Red. And it was a traditional sort of like um, mountain ballad, if you will. I have a vinyl CD, or I have a vinyl record that has a version of it on it. Actually, it's like a bluegrass sort of mountain ballad version of it, and I can totally see how how it could be adapted into Chuck Berry's style. So that was actually kind of fun to like read and to pick up on. Next up, we have the Black Crowes "Shake Your Money Maker." Um, Fantastic album. Every song on here is great. I don't know. I don't think I've ever, to me, as like, this is gonna sound bad maybe, but like to me this is their greatest hits album, because like this was my introduction to the Black Crowes. I loved it, and I don't really think that like if you're in the market to only buy one Black Crowes CD, this is the one you should get. What's on here? We got Twice as Hard, we've got Jealous Again, Could I Have Been So Blind, Hard to Handle, She Talks to Angels, and then of course I really like Stare at Cold and Mercy Sweet Moan. Both of those fantastic, and I think one of them actually ends with sort of like a callback to like Hank Williams in a very strange way, if I'm remembering correctly. But anyways, that's my favorite Black Crowes album. I think if you like that style of music, or if you're interested in like the Rolling Stones or even the Tragically Hip, the Black Crowes make a good sort of secondary pickup to that sort of genre if you like it. Um, Next up, we've got some more Bob Dylan. We've continued on with our Bob Dylan. So we got, I picked up, but bringing it all back home. This, I want to say, I don't think I've gone on record yet as saying what my favorite Bob Dylan album is yet, but this probably is my favorite Bob Dylan album. What I love about it is it starts off as rock and roll and then it goes back to the folk phase. And so it's that sort of mix in between of the two things. So Another Side of Bob Dylan is great because it's still folk music, but it's like rocked up kind of folk music. It's him with an acoustic guitar and a piano just playing sort of these like nonsensical lyrical songs to some degree and having fun with it and making it sort of sound rock and rolly. It kind of has that like Nebraska, like open all night, like that kind of a feel to it. And it's very loose and like he's starting to get away from just like straight folk. This is where it just like all starts to hang out and it's fantastic. Subterranean Homesick Blues, amazing. Pretty sure it was influenced, from what I've understood, by Too Much Monkey Business. And so like there's all of these like roots of other stuff in here. Maggie's Farm is fantastic. And probably I should say, my actual favorite Bob Dylan song, which is Love Minus Zero No Limit. I think usually I say that like a Rolling Stone is probably my favorite, but that's not quite correct. It's actually Love Minus Zero No Limit. So if you've never heard that song, go look it up. It's fantastic. It's this kind of like folky sort of vibe, and it's just very lyrically interesting. It's a poem set to music, more so than anything else that I would say he's ever written. It's fantastic. I love it. Other great stuff. Outlaw Blues is on here. Mr. Tambourine Man has probably my favorite pronunciation of a word in Bob Dylan's catalog on it, which is Vague Traces of Rhyme. And it's like vague traces of rhyme. It's very interesting how that comes out. I love it. I enjoy it. But I also stole from the CD library at home a copy of Bob Dylan's MTV Unplugged, because if you like that stuff and you maybe haven't gotten quite into like the newer Bob Dylan stuff, specifically like what is it, Time Out of Mind, Love and Theft, and like Modern Times onward, this is a pretty good introduction to that sort of idea of where he's gotten to before those albums, or at least by like the early 90s. And so, yeah, it's a bunch of covers of a lot of the stuff from the early folk days, but also covers of everything in his catalog up to that point in time. So it goes through some of the sort of Christian songs that he wrote, and just everything that he did in like the 70s and 80s, in between sort of like the big sort of albums, which would be Desire, which is like the Rolling Thunder Review, and Blood on the Tracks. And so it's really great. I really enjoy a lot of the cuts on here. Shooting Star stood out to me as one that I really liked. Dignity's fantastic. I really liked the sort of updates to some of his other material, like The Times They Are a Changin' and With God on Our Side. Both of those were really fantastic updates. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out. It's great, and I definitely recommend it. Next up, I've decided to add back into my library here a copy of, let's go right, a copy of Something to Live For by Ella Fitzgerald. This is from the American Masters series, and so this was, I believe, a series that was done on PBS. So there's like a PBS sort of tie into this. There's a documentary that goes along with it, and this is just music that would have been featured or that they talked about in the movie. And it just gives you a really good sort of overview of her career early on. I've listened to it before. I thought it was really great. Ella's got an amazing voice. She's also somebody who like didn't practice singing. She would just sing, and whatever came out was whatever came out. And she was just sort of like a natural at doing that. She was also somebody who was I forget the word for it, but she's like self-taught, but in the sense of like she didn't even have like a lesson or like somebody sort of like showing her how to do stuff. She just learned how to do things completely on her own. It's fantastic. Like I forget what the actual word for it is, but that's who she was as a person. So Ella Fitzgerald is going back into my CD library. I've had to buy an entirely new rack to put everything into, but yeah, that's a fantastic one. Next up, I've got a copy of Continuum, which is subtitled Music by John Mayer. I really, really like this album. I was reminded of this album, let's put it that way, by the JHS Pedals show that they do. And they brought it up at the end of one of their episodes where they were talking about I forget what the exact pedal type that they were talking about, but I was doing a lot of research into pedals because I wanted to set up a pedal board, and I have now, and it's fantastic, and I've tweaked it, and I'm very excited about it. And this was the thing that I picked up because I had listened to that, and I was like, I definitely want to learn a little bit more about like different sounds and things like that. And basically, in modern blues, this might sound bad, but like to me in modern blues, there's especially like rock blues, let's put it that way. In modern rock blues, you can either go down the route of John Mayer, who's a little more traditional, maybe a little more Hendrixy at times, or you can go down the road of Jack White, who's more like Delta blues, but also more punk rock. So you get to choose which one you want to go down, but both of them are really interesting. Also, I watched a bunch of lessons of his that he had put out, things like learning the pentatonic equator idea, and that's actually really helped my playing a lot and helped me to sit down with this and start to like pick out different parts of what he's doing as he's been playing along. So that's also helped me for like training my ear to play along with stuff. So this was a great album overall. The entire thing was fantastic. But highlights, I would definitely say Waiting on the World to Change. I liked Belief. What else? Slow Dancing in a Burner Room, and his cover of Bold as Love by Hendrix was actually really cool. So yeah, that was a lot of fun to pick up and listen to and like actually learn how to play along with. And so yeah, I haven't quite gotten to the point where I'm like a soloist or anything, but I've started to get to the point where I can pick out some of sort of like the lead stuff that people are doing in records, and that's actually been a lot of fun to like learn how to do or learn how to like pick up and like mimic along with it. And a lot of that came out of just learning the pentatonic scale, but also the pentatonic equator idea. So go check that out if you're interested. Next up, we have a complete blues collection of Memphis Minnie's songs. This is called Hoodoo Lady, and this is just a collection of some of her material that she recorded throughout her life. We've got the big song would probably be When the Levee Breaks, which you might know from either Bob Dylan's Modern Times. There's a song on it that's influenced by that. The Levee's Gonna Break, and also Led Zeppelin's 4 album, which ends with When the Levee Breaks. And so yeah, it's fantastic. Other stuff that stood out to me on here, Me and My Chauffeur Blues was really cool because it has this kind of like rock and roll kind of feel to it, like hillbilly sort of rock and roll. I guess it's called rockabilly, but like it had that kind of a feel to it as opposed to being just like straight blues. There's other stuff on here that was really cool. Looking the World Over, I really enjoyed that song. Please Set a Date was great. 3x7 Blues was awesome. My Gauge is Going Up. There's a bunch of stuff. Hoodoo Lady, fantastic song. Because basically, like, she's talking about how she's totally fine with using hoodoo on other people, but she does not want it, returned to her in any way, shape, or form. So, pretty good stuff. And pretty cool because she influenced, obviously, in terms of, it sounds sad to say this, but like classic rock in terms of that, like both Bob Dylan, Modern Times has a song that's influenced by that on it, and obviously Led Zeppelin 2 has a song that's a cover of that. Now that's also important because we'll come to that in a second. We're going alphabetically, and I forgot what I was doing. All right, so next up we have Tom Petty's Wildflowers. I picked this up because one, Tom Petty's amazing. Two, from what I understand, it's not summer until you've listened to Tom Petty. So now we have some Tom Petty to listen to. And three, this is a great CD, first of all, but secondly, the title track on this is amazing. I remember I had taken a really long road trip in the summer of 2023. I went down to the States and I drove down the Pacific coast to some extent. And I got to, I want to say it was Eureka. It might have been a small town near Eureka, but it was somewhere around there. And I remember turning on the radio in this parking lot while I was eating dinner, and Wildflowers was playing, and I was blown away because I don't remember having heard it before. And so that to me stood out, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And it's been on my list of stuff, something to pick up for a while. But like everything else that people might be familiar with are like the hits off this album. So like You Don't Know How It Feels, You Wreck Me is on here. Oh, Honeybee is actually kind of fun. I don't know if you've listened to it, but Honeybee is actually a really fun song. But yeah, this is a great CD, and I highly recommend it. If you're in the mood for some Tom Petty, that's where I might suggest one goes. Okay, so but going back to Memphis Minnie and why I was going to tie that into something, we have Robert Plant's Saving Grace with Susie Diane. The first song on here, Chevrolet, is a cover of a Memphis Minnie song. So now Robert Plant has essentially in his life, recorded life that I know of, because I only have about 5 albums of stuff that he's sang on, where he's now recorded at least 2 Memphis Minnie songs. So I thought that was really cool. Chevrolet was great. This album is actually really interesting because it's sort of like an English, a traditional, almost like English sort of like minstrelly kind of like medieval thing, folk thing going on here, and coming through that traditional sort of path of that. I think he calls it English Kana, if I remember correctly from the NPR Tiny Desk that he did for this album. But it's great. Like it's very much that. Yeah, like minstrelly might not be the right word anymore, but definitely that sort of like traditional like English folk like tradition, going back to sort of like medieval times, like bards roaming around the countryside singing these songs. That's what this comes off as, but it has very modern sort of songs on it. Though a lot of them also came out of like the traditional folk song catalog or something. I read it in the liner notes, and now I forget what it's actually called, what the correct title for it is, but a lot of these songs came out of this database that's being assembled of all of these traditional folk songs that people have been preserving. So it's actually kind of cool to get to hear this. There is some really great stuff on here. I loved Chevrolet. That was great. I really liked As I Wrote Out, I Will Never Marry. Higher Rock, fantastic. Everybody's Song, and Gospel Plow. Gospel Plow reminded me so much of like the Seeger Sessions, Bruce Springsteen Seeger Sessions band take on sort of like updating folk music. And in general, I guess that would be the closest approximation to us if you were unfamiliar with it, but more from like that English sort of strain of like folk music. I actually even sat down one morning and started to learn how to play Higher Rock by ear, and I got something that's pretty close to it, and I'm really happy with how it sounds. So now I've kind of like just memorize all the lyrics, or at least get a copy of them and write them down somewhere, and then I'll work on, finalizing that at some point in time. But that was a really great CD. I was really happy to pick it up. Next up, we have William Prince. This, I believe, is his first album. This is called Earthly Days. William Prince is a country singer from Winnipeg. Technically, I believe he's from Peguis First Nation. And he writes country music, and it's awesome. I really enjoy it. The album that he released, I think it was after this. It's called Reliever. Is really fantastic. Um, and I hadn't listened to Earthly Days before, so I decided to pick it up. It's also his first album. And I was really happy with it. There's a lot of stuff on here that I thought was really great. The first single, Breathless, is amazing. It's a great song. I've heard him do different versions of it for like NPR Tiny Desk, and I don't know if he did it on the CBC or not, but I might have heard him do it on the CBC. Or I didn't. I don't know. We'll find out. But yeah, the stuff that stood out to me as well on this was like You Got Me. The opening track was fantastic. I also really liked Earthly Days in Bloom, and Grace was really good. So yeah, I would check him out if you're interested, because every once in a while, I love I love some country music. I know a lot of what I've been listening to lately is very like strictly blues or sort of like more folk in that sense, but that's a fantastic sort of slight step away from that. And I just love it, as I said. So very happy with that pickup. Next up, we got The Ramones. This is the first album by The Ramones. What more can I say? If you haven't heard it, you know, this is kind of, in some ways, the actual birth of American like punk music, if you will. Because before them, there was like the Stooges, there was the Velvet Underground, there was people who were doing very loud, noisy, aggressive rock, but there wasn't quite full-blown punk yet. And then I guess in the UK, it's like the Sex Pistols are technically the group that kicks this off over there. And then you get into, well, was it the Ramones or was it the Sex Pistols who, you know, created punk rock? And I mean, really, if you want to think about it, it was probably Chuck Berry. So there you go. But yeah, this is their first album. It's amazing. It holds up over time, or it has held up over time. And again, it pretty much operates as the greatest hits of the Ramones, or at least in my head it does. Outside of this, I would say, what's the one with Sheena as a punk rocker on it? Is that Rocket to Russia? That might be the other one that I would pick up if you really wanted to get into like the Ramones. But yeah, Blitzkrieg Bop opens this up. That is the song everybody knows by the Ramones. Beat on the Brat is on here. Judy is a Punk. Now I Want to Sniff Some Glue, which might be, as far as I know, Johnny Ramone's only solo like ever on any of their records that they ever made. It's otherwise it is all just like 8th and 16th bar chords throughout the entire thing, and there are no solos by Johnny. So that song is fantastic. That's another reason to pick up this album, because yeah, his only that I know of guitar solo is on here. What else we got? Havana Affair, 53rd and 3rd, Let's Dance, just fantastic stuff is on here. Highly recommend it. If for some reason you've never heard of the Ramones before, this is the place to start. And just go from there. Go wild, go nuts. Yeah, just learn your power chords and just go nuts. Fantastic stuff. Next up, what did I get here? Oh, I've got Play by Ed Sheeran. This is another CD that I was introduced to via NPR's Tiny Desk. Yeah, it turns out if you want to introduce me to music, you either put it on the CBC or NPR's Tiny Desk, or SNL. SNL, these are like the three main places that I'm like, oh, that sounded really cool. I should go find that for like live stuff. That seems to be the best place to get me to like find things. But yeah, Play by Ed Sheeran is great. I saw him do this on Tiny Desk by himself with a big looping board, and it was really cool to see him set this up and like create these tracks out of these small little loops, and then just start singing over top of it. Very, very cool. And so yeah, like listening to this album, it's funny to think that like that's how he's able to like make stuff. So that was really, really cool. The only other group I can think of that I've seen do something similar to that lately is Engin de Poitrine, who are a Quebec band from Saguenay. And they play like they have like a microtonal guitar that they play. It's fantastic. It's like, I mean, they have pixel art on one of their covers. It's basically like Super Nintendo heavy metal, essentially. It's fantastic stuff. And again, they have like what looks like a giant looping board that they're using to build up their tracks on and stuff. Similar idea, completely different style of music. So that's definitely something that I would love to get in hard copy. I've yet to find it. Usually it's been sold out because people have gone nuts over it. But yeah, this similar idea. In terms of construction, not in terms of like sound. Completely different experience. If you're looking for, you know, if you're an Argent de Poitrine fan and you're coming to play expecting the same thing, you're not going to get it. And if you're going the opposite way, you're also not going to get it. So yeah, but stuff that I liked on here, Sapphire, um, Camera was really good. I want to say For Always in Heaven stood out to me, but yeah, this was a really fun album. I really enjoyed it, especially hearing it on NPR and then streaming it before I ended up purchasing it. So I was very happy about that. Next up, we got another guy who has new music out, but I just haven't seen it yet. Is David Byrne of the Talking Heads, and so this is actually just the Talking Heads. This is Fear of Music. God, I want to say my introduction to the Talking Heads was through Stop Making Sense with the giant suit. And that was a really cool way to like be introduced to them, especially like the intro of Psycho Killer, where he just comes out with the boombox, puts it down, hits play, and starts just jamming over top of the little tape that's playing the beat, just by himself to open the show. That was a really cool experience. So that's my introduction to Talking Heads. But I think this is actually a really good introduction as well. So many songs on here made it onto that, made it onto the greatest hits collections and everything else. That yeah, this is just a fantastic place to start. I'm not entirely sure. I never remember how to pronounce the name of this, but Izimbra, fantastic song. Life During Wartime is amazing. Might be my favorite Talking Heads song. What do we got? Air and Heaven are both fantastic on here. Drugs was really great, but yeah, the entire thing is fantastic from start to finish. And like I've delved into a little bit of his solo work previously, like Everything That Happens Will Happen Today, which I think became mostly the soundtrack of Wall Street 2, the second Wall Street, with Gordon Gekko's like an old man teaching a younger person to like do similar stuff during the 2008 financial crisis. If I remember the plot of this movie correctly, something I haven't watched for like 20 years. But that a lot of those songs featured on the soundtrack of that album. It was a really great album. And then he has a new album that's come out that's a solo one that I've seen him do some stuff on NPR with. And again, like just live shows that he's done in New York and other places around the world. And it looks fantastic and I'm really excited about it. I just haven't seen it. So this is what I got in the meantime to buy me over until then, or I guess to tide me over. Next up, I got Jack White's No Name. I love the White Stripes. I've listened to some Jack White before. I just hadn't actually gotten a CD of it in a really long time. I want to say like Fear of the Dawn stands out to me as one. Blunderbuss, and is Lazaretto the name of an album, or is that just a song that's on Blunderbuss? I can't remember. But anyways, it's really fun that in the White Stripes, he was very focused on red, black, and white as a color scheme. And it's really cool that as like a solo act, he's very focused on blue. So I think that's really great as like a way to split yourself up into I'm in a band, I'm on my own. He's also got other projects that he's done with The Dead Weather and obviously the Raconteurs. But yeah, I just like the sort of bookending of his, solo work versus his White Stripes work. So that's really great. This again, nothing on it except for on the spine. And so yeah, so it's called No Name. I really enjoyed this. I've just got to see him and Jack Black together on SNL, and he did at least a song off of here. I think the second song that he did is off another album. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I was like, I need to go re-listen to this. So I remember Archbishop Harold Holmes. I remember watching the music video for that when that came out. That was really cool. That's How I'm Feeling is the one that he did on SNL. Fantastic. Old Scratch Blues was great. What's the Rumpus was a lot of fun. Bombing Out was great as well. And what else did I really like on here? Oh, the song about he's in the attic. He's coming down from the attic. What was that song? It's fine. Again, I'm the only person who's going to watch this, so it's fine to just have like a lot of silence. Maybe it's just one of the ones that I've already mentioned. But yeah, there's a song on here that's about like he's up in the attic and he's gonna come down, and I just thought that was really fun, especially in conjunction with having gotten the Ramones album, which has a song that's called "I Don't Want to Go Down to the Basement," and so I just thought that's really great. So yeah, Jack White's No Name, fantastic stuff. Go pick it up if you're interested. If you like the White Stripes, you'll probably like Jack White on his own. If you liked Dead Weather or the Raconteurs, you'll probably like Jack White on his own. So there you go. Next up, we have an old CD of mine that I found at home, which is the 20th Century's Masters Greatest Best of Howlin' Wolf set. I got this specifically so I could sit down and actually spend some time learning Hubert Sumlin's style, if you will. He is just an amazing guitarist, and like the tone that he has that comes out of this is fantastic. If you've never heard Howlin' Wolf before, do yourself a favor and go look him up because he's great. What do we got here? Every song on here is fantastic. I don't even know what I would recommend to you to listen to outside of, I guess, Smokestack Lightning is great. Sitting on Top of the World, Wang Tang Doodle, back to our man Spoonful. His Red Rooster on here is from the London sessions, and so at one point in time, like there was a bunch of London sessions that happened where Howlin' Wolf went over. I think Muddy Waters has one, and maybe Chuck Berry. I could be wrong, but definitely Howlin' Wolf, and I think Muddy Waters have them. And what's fantastic about it is that you can hear him talking to, I think it's Eric Clapton, as he's like teaching him this, repetitive riff that's going to be the entire song. And Clapton's like, no, you play it and I'll play along with you. It's pretty cool to like hear people working together in the studio like that. So that's a great introduction to Howlin' Wolf. First of all, also to Hubert Sumlin, his guitarist, and his work. Next up, what do we got here? I picked up Bob Dylan's Through the Open Window, the Bootleg Series, Volume 18. One thing that I really like about like following specific artists is I really like to see like the early part of their career and how they went from like their first album to their second album, maybe to their third album, and sort of like looking at that trend. And that probably has something to do with the fact that, like, as I've said somewhere else, my favorite video game is Baldur's Gate, the first one, because you get to go from a level, 1 hero to a level 7 hero by the end of it. And so you get to go through this progression of being a nobody to being a somebody. And this is a really cool collection of just live takes of different songs that he performed from 1956 to 1963. So there's a couple sort of like home recordings that he did very early on here, and then the rest of it is all stuff that he performed live. And a lot of it is like folk music covers, so covers of other people's songs, which is really fantastic as a means of just learning new music and learning sort of other songs that you might enjoy, and then going and finding those artists to look them up and to take a listen to the rest of their, oeuvre, if you will. And so, yeah, this was a really cool set. I remember listening to this on streaming in the fall, and really looking forward to it coming out. And it came out, and now I've got it, and I'm very happy with it. So, yeah, um, God, if I, it's tough to pick just like a few songs on here because there's uh, around 40 of them. But I would definitely pick out, like, if you're a nerd about this kind of stuff, I would pick out Let the Good Times Roll, and I Got a New Girl, both of which are like home recordings of like his earliest sort of music, and just this like kind of like rock and roll kind of style going on. Really fantastic stuff. And then it moves through the shift into folk music, learning more folk music, and then moving out of that just before we get into like another side of Bob Dylan and where we're going to get into more of the rocked up sort of folk and stuff. So yeah, really cool set. As I said, like if you like that sort of like, oh, where does an artist start and how do they develop and all the rest of that stuff, that's a really cool set to pick up. Same with like William Prince, first CD, second CD, third CD, and I think he just released a new album. So I don't know if that's part of his fourth album, maybe a fifth album. I could be wrong, but yeah, that's just a really cool thing that I like to do occasionally, is just to go through somebody's catalog and just listen to it from the beginning. Because yeah, it's fun to see how people change over time. Next up, I bought another 7-inch single. I got the Subway by Chappell Roan. I remember when this came out, it was awesome. I love that it mentions Saskatchewan creatively. That's really cool, and it's just a fun song. I really enjoyed it. So, as a means of sort of staying up to date with Chappell, as I guess she's recording her second album, maybe it's at a different stage, and I'm completely out of the loop. But as a means of just keeping up with it, I've been buying her singles, and so it's been a lot of fun to sort of do that. But yeah, the Subway, fantastic. If you haven't heard it, if you have, then you know what I'm talking about. There you go. Last up, we have Margo Price's Hard Headed Woman. What can I say? This is her latest album. It's great. I now own, I want to say, everything except for her second album. That's the only one that I don't have. And that's the one that I know I learned how to play Loner off of that album by ear, which was really cool. That was a really fun morning, actually. I was sitting down and learning how to play that by ear. So, yeah, just fun times. But yeah, Margo Price. What can I say that I haven't said before? Nothing, apparently. I love it. It's great. I really like her take on country. I do enjoy that sort of like return to the 70s sort of like outlaw country movement, the authenticity of it. Also that she recorded all these songs live in studio with the band, as like complete takes. That's really awesome. And so it gives the music like a different sort of weight because of that. And yeah, it's just great. Oh, what do I recommend off of here? Don't Let the Bastards Get You Down was great. Don't Wake Me Up with Jesse Walls was fantastic. Close to You is one that sticks out in my mind. On the second half, I would say Losing Streak, Love Me Like You Used to, and Kissing You Goodbye. All of those were great songs. I was really happy to find this and pick this up. It was a limited edition red velvet pressing, which I thought was great because Jesse Walls obviously has recorded, Jesse Wells has recorded a song since that's called Red. If you haven't heard that one, you should go check that out as well. But yeah, it was great. So I was very happy to find this. And yeah, I think it's just the second one that has Loner, All American Made. I can't remember what else is on it at this moment in time. I want to say that there's definitely, it's a song about banks foreclosing on people's farms. I forget what the name of that one is. But yeah, just fantastic stuff. I really enjoy Margo. I enjoy what she does. And yeah, I'm now up to date on, you know, her catalog at this point in time, and I'm very happy and excited about that. So that's where I got to at this point in time. That's everything I've been listening to for basically the last at least month, if not couple months. And as I said, I'm probably the only person who's ever going to watch this video. So I hope I enjoy it when I get to that point and rewatch it. Until then, take care.